The world of Days Gone is breathtaking. You'll be tempted to stop and look out at the lush valleys, the many rivers and waterfalls, but don't. You're not a tourist here. You're fighting to survive. Scarred by ancient volcanoes, extreme environments like lava fields and caves make perfect hideouts for marauders. Enemy camps are dangerous because their locations are so varied, encouraging you to use different tactics and strategies. Riding cross-country through dense forests or on narrow trails through steep ravines will push you to your limit. Riding through abandoned truck stops, small towns, infested logging camps is even more dangerous. Early on, as the pandemic spread, trainloads of corpses were brought into the wilderness for mass burial. These grave sites are now feeding grounds for freakers, making for some deadly rides and intense horde fights. Weather, harsh and unpredictable. In the northern Cascade region, heavy rain will muddy up those windy trails. Snow in the mountains and foothills will make the freakers even stronger and more dangerous. With 6 regions filled with abandoned Nero checkpoints, survivor camps, choked off tunnels, explore the world of Days Gone.
What was the inspiration behind this character?
Well, a few things. He's broken. So you saw from a couple of trailers that we've released that he's lost someone and it's scarred him in a way. And it's like Jeff would like to say, everybody loses people, in these kinds of end of the world scenarios. So what's particular about Deacon though is that he was an ex-member of an outlaw motorcycle club, and therefore he has a love of the open road. He has a love of motorcycles.
Yeah.
There's a sense of brotherhood, and you can see that here in these scenes with him and his best friend Boozer. And so it was that combination that really sort of drew us to this particular character.
Right, we're going to continue to learn about him as you're playing the game, correct? About him and his backstory and why he is the way he is.
I mean, the bike is very important, right, as well?
Yeah, we almost consider the bike to be another character.
Yeah.
Because you only get one, and you're constantly upgrading it, you're constantly trying to repair it, you need to keep it refueled. And if you lose it, you got to go find it, and you can't whistle for a new one. So
You can't whistle.
right,
Like a horse.
Yeah, the refueling mechanic is a huge game design choice. I really, really like that. Can you talk more about how important it's going to be to be able to find fuel?
Sorry.
So the refueling mechanic, and actually you have to find gas to keep your bike going. It's a mechanic we haven't really seen done to this extent before. Can you talk more about that and how it changes the gameplay?
Well, like in this demo, one of the things that Jeff's taking the run and gun approach. So we like to call it sandbox combat. So basically what you can do is you can run and gun, you can stealth your way through, and your goal here is to get and find a bike part, right? So you're here actually for kind of a trivial reason. You've risked your friend's life to come and get a part for your bike. And so that shows a little bit about Deacon's character. But then as you watch Jeff play through this wide linear sequence, he can play it 100 different ways. And if you watch other people play, you'll see that, okay, they didn't take this route. They didn't stop and check the trunk of this police car. And those are kind of like our treasure chests throughout the world. So you're always on the lookout for those, because that's how you're going to find ammo and health kits. And then you're seeing one of our stealth mechanics here. If you're quiet, if you crouch walk and you walk up behind an enemy, then you have the opportunity for a stealth takedown.
And what can you tell us about the freakers? Because they're quite unique. And we've seen, a fair few undead enemies in video games before. What makes the freakers unique, and what was your decision-making behind making them the way they are?
They're alive.
They're alive.
Yeah, they're not zombies, they're alive. And so that sounds trivial, but it's not, because it basically means we have a full day-night cycle in the game.
Right.
And they have things that they do. There's an ecosystem, and they have to eat, they have to drink, they have to hibernate. And so you will find them, like in this scenario, you'll see that there's some nests, and freakers build nests for reasons you discover while you're playing the game. and then you can take those nest zones out in order to free up fast travel routes. So it becomes part of the metagame. But freakers are evolving. They're living creatures who have been affected by this virus, and there's several different types. And some of our trailers you've seen, we've shown the screamer, which is a female that can have sort of alarm system that will bring in more freakers.
Right.
We have the infected bear, so it infects animals. In our last trailer, we showed
Mountain
crows,
lion and the crows.
right? So you have so it's just it's a wide variety of challenges for the player. And like we said, the world comes for you, and that's part of it. Is that these creatures are always after you, and at night they're stronger.
Yeah.
If it starts raining, they become stronger.
But I've seen in previous trailers Deacon actually utilizing the freakers as a weapon against his enemy as well. So you can actually use them to your advantage as well as the environment itself.
Yeah, absolutely. We call it the freakosystem. So in this scenario, there's not a lot of chance for that. But if he were fighting marauders or rippers, then he could find a nearby swarm. It's an open world, so you can just explore. You can find other tools like a swarm or a freaker bear, and you could bring them into an enemy camp and watch the sort of mayhem that happens.
I guess you've got to be careful, though. You don't get kind of sucked into it.
Yeah.
I like this gun, you guys. So you have melee combat and you have gun combat. Can you talk about how you designed and balanced for both?
It's like so many different scenarios require the player to determine how they want to play it, right? So that's why we have like this full set of stealth mechanics. We have a full set of weapons that you can upgrade, and in order to do that, you have to go to the human encampment. So there's survivor encampments in the world, the only places in the world where it's safe. And you have to do jobs and missions with them in order to earn trust. And then once you earn trust, the merchants there will sell you things.
Ah, I like that.
And then it's like, and if you want to upgrade your shotgun, or you want to buy a silencer for it, then you have to have enough trust at that encampment in order to do that.
Boozer, you there? I found the part. I'm heading up.
Got the bike part. He's not having a good time.
This is the inside of the Crazy Willie's truck stop, and that's one of the other things we wanted to point out is that full open world, but there's a lot of exploration in the game. All of the building interiors are accessible. There's no load times to get in and outside of a building or to go between regions. This is in the Belknap Wilderness, and the whole area is just completely explorable. And then these are the Rippers that I mentioned earlier. So these are one of the cults in the game.
Tats are dead symbols of a dead man. Dead symbols of the lost. Get off me! Bitches! Biker Man! You must be brought low, Biker Man. For you are lost, and we are found.
Oh yeah, that's gonna hurt.
Get low!
So you can see they're not very friendly.
No. You've talked about having freedom in terms of how you approach missions. So you can approach them stealthily. You can go in all guns blazing if you want to. What kind of freedom do you have in terms of the mission structure, in terms of the story? Do you get to make story choices in the game, or is it like sort of like a linear narrative path you're going to be taking?
Yeah, there's several key places where you have to choose what Deacon is going to do in a key situation. So we released a bunch of footage last month, and if you watch carefully, you'll see that there's a moment where Deacon has the choice to take a man's life or to force Boozer to do it.
Right.
And that will have an impact on Boozer's morale. So your best friend, how he feels about you, how he feels about the world, that's kind of up to you as the player.
Awesome.
Did you just die?
Yeah,
Hey, we just wanted to prove that that was our scripted.
You're keeping it real. Is that really what just happened?
We wanted to prove that it was real. That was.
And you will die in this game.
Yeah. Yes, you will die lots.
All right, so you tried doing sort of a stealthy approach, and now you're just going to go in with a shotgun and blow them away.
Ooh, get that headshot.
Or baseball bat, that works.
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything about what has happened in the world? Why are we in this post-apocalyptic situation? Like, are you able to reveal like kind of what has happened, what has led to this transition?
Yeah, it's one of those things that we really want the player to sort of learn as they go. So there are answers.
Right.
But you have to explore. There's a, we've introduced this group called NERO, which is our National Emergency Response Organization. They're out in the world. They have these MMUs that you're trying to break into in order to get medical supplies. They're part of the story. And, obviously Deacon has lost somebody. We saw that in a trailer. That's part of the story. And as far as like the pandemic and the hordes that you run into constantly, these all sort of weave together to sort of explain how we got here.
Get low, loser! Don't hit the bag! Low, brother!
You or Boozer have a run-in with RIP the last couple of days?
Why?
One of my men escaped to Ripper camp, got tortured, like they always do. But this time they kept asking me if you knew about it. 2 bikers, 2 men. The Ripper called them mongrels. You ask me, you got a price on your head.
Someone's here.
You know same as me. Anything that happens here is far better than what's going on out there.
Get off!
Perfect. Just perfect.
St. John and Days Gone.
Yeah, and we're here to talk about the alternate path demo. So we did 2 demos for E3 this year. One you guys saw at the media showcase, and this one we showed behind closed doors on the floor at E3. And so for the first time, we're releasing it online so that everybody can kind of take a look at it. And I thought I'd just talk a little bit about, what the differences are, and just kind of like just show you what we were trying to accomplish this year.
Yeah, I mean, the most obvious difference so far is the last one was nighttime during the rain, and this is daytime during the snow.
Yeah, and and it's not just cosmetic, and I think that's one of the things we really wanted to emphasize, because this time we're showing sort of a day in the life of Deacon. You see he's on the drifter bike here. We wanted to show a little more of the bike riding and how the weather can kind of impact that. So we have this drifting mechanic, right? You see him kind of slipping and sliding around a little bit.
Changes the handling of the bike. That's really interesting. Now, there were wolves there last time, John, and these wolves would pursue you down this road, and then Deacon had to turn his back, shoot a wolf, and he got clotheslined right up there, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So this time you see that he wasn't being chased by the wolves. That's a dynamic event that can that can happen or not. It just depends on when you're playing the game.
Interesting.
And this time Deacon saw the ambush and he was able to avoid it. So he kind of comes up and around and behind them.
So does weather impacts whether these creatures show up or not in daytime, nighttime, all that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So especially the freakers, they come out, they're mostly nocturnal, but they will come out as the weather gets colder. They become stronger in the cold.
Right.
And so that will, again, kind of change up the way the game plays.
That's very, very, I kind of love that you decided to do this as a demo to show 2 completely different iterations on the same exact mission in the game.
Yes, exactly. So we wanted to have, the job is basically the same. Deacon hears that his buddy's in trouble, rides out to save his life. And, as you can see here, this is a completely different experience from what we showed in the first demo. In the first one, Deacon gets clotheslined, and it sounded very painful, by the way.
Oh, speaking of painful, okay, so the combat in this game is fairly brutal. John, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, we just wanted to make it as, as realistic as possible. So, yeah, we're not holding back on that at all. And Sam's done most of his own stunt work for this. And I can tell you that when we're on the performance stage and we're capturing that stuff, we just try to keep it real, right?
Right. Well, right. There was sort of a decision made at some point. What I've been on the project for 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah, I think 3 years.
And so early on, I think there was a more, what were we? It was more Kurt Russell and sort of a two-fisted thing, and then it turned into, hey, let's take this quite seriously. And what that required is a lot more. Taking this combat stuff and showing the horror of the violence that happens and it were this type of circumstance to take place. I mean, realism, weirdly enough, is the thing we keep going back to when it comes to not just the stunts, but also the performance style. I think, it was very important that it doesn't seem like a bunch of actors saying lines. It was
Yeah.
all very incidental.
And we wanted the world to sort of reflect that as well. So
Yeah.
you saw there that, Deacon broke into that emergency vehicle.
What's
and
this?
Found some supplies. So this is what we're calling our survival vision. So you
Survival
saw
vision.
that earlier when he was looking at Manny's bike on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of a way of seeing tracks in the world and sort of imagining what might have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And here, I just wanted to point out that you're seeing in this part of the demo that there are freakers there. There weren't there before because
Yeah.
it wasn't snowing. It was, and it was getting lighter out. It wasn't getting darker like it is. And so, it changes up the way you can play through the level.
And what is this?
So, we call this the meat wall.
The meat wall.
Yeah, and it's not just there, to make the guys who put them up to seem evil. They're there for a purpose because, again, freakers are living creatures. They eat. That's their primary thing. They want to eat. And so you hang these dead freakers up, and any freaker, rather than coming into their camp like you see here, they would actually
We'll stop and snack.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with this freaker that they've hung upside down.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bear trap underneath it, and they use that because a freaker will come, be attracted to the meat, and then hit that trap.
Interesting.
Another thing you just saw, by the way, is that tin
the
can.
tin can trap that you
Yeah, that's an
stumbled over
alarm
last
that the
time.
marauders will put up, and this is again some of the things that marauder camps just do. And you find these marauder camps throughout the world. You'll find traps like that, and then if you're careful and you're paying attention, you can avoid them. Because in the first demo, Deacon didn't avoid it, and he set off that alarm.
Right. Now this is the same tactic that he used last time. Throws the rock to get someone to lure them over and have them step in the bear trap. But this one plays out a little bit differently than last time. One of the things that struck me, and we've talked about this obviously as we've shot, but there's an effort of the other marauders to get this guy to shut up, and he won't.
Yeah, and so in the first demo, Deacon's heading on down the trail, and you can hear that happening behind him.
Right.
And this time we're showing what happened. So, he's watching everybody react to this poor guy trapped in the in that bear trap, and she just is like, shut up, shut up, shut up, and then just loses it and shoots the guy.
Right.
And of course, in the meantime, Deacon is crafting a Molotov and just takes them all out.
Right. Oh boy, that's good. Ow.
So again, it's like in the previous demo, Deacon would have gone off to the trail down to the right. This time he's going to head this way. He follows the tracks, and comes under a sniper attack.
Now let me ask you something about the survival. Okay, there's a sniper attack coming, but the survival vision is, if you don't say upgrade your survival vision, can you miss clues? I mean, are there things that you would get if you upgraded your survival vision
Yes.
that would help you complete the mission better?
Exactly, and you have to, we have a whole skill tree, and it's all tied to the experience that you can earn as you're just playing through the game, and then you can upgrade those things.
What's happening here? We got a freaker tied to a tree.
Yeah, so this is another type of trap that marauders will set. They will basically chain freakers to the perimeter of their camps, and they use them as kind of an alarm system. And then that, you saw that marauder there. He was just tormenting the poor freaker, and then so Deacon kind of takes advantage of that.
Well, and you think for a moment that Deacon is the guy. He's sort of helping the freaker by getting the guy that taunted him. But no, and then he's going to take the freaker out right afterward.
Exactly.
And this is a bit of silent sniping using the crossbow.
Yeah, so this whole sequence at the end plays out very differently. In the first demo, you saw Deacon use a swarm. He weaponized a swarm, lured them into the camp, and then they kind of did the work for him. There's no swarm in this run through.
Right.
So the player really has to go in and use what we're calling our strategic sandbox combat, and that's just stealth mechanics and setting and using traps, whole arsenal of weapons. You see there's a variety of weapons that Deacon's going to use through this, including the crossbow. He crafts his own bolts. And he's got to figure out how to get up to Manny, just using his combat skills instead of doing it strategically.
So straighten me out. Those bonfires, were those there in the previous demo?
No, they weren't. Right. So that's another big difference. Is that if you come here during the day, it's like in the media showcase demo, there was like kind of a fight club thing going on.
Right.
They were punching each other, and everybody was just sort of getting into it. Nobody's really paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
And now it's getting dark and it's cold out. So they've built these bonfires. So. And again, it's not just a cosmetic change in the way
Well, it's cold, right?
Yeah, it's because it's cold.
They have to build some.
So it changes the way the marauders behave in the level.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's very. Again, this is part of the reason why I love that you did this as a demo, because the behavior of all of these things, not just the freakers, but the marauders, everything. There's a logic to it. You can track why they're doing the things that they're doing. And you can use it to your advantage in the gameplay. That's kind of what I like about this so much.
And that's really what we wanted to showcase this year, is that it's an open world game. And everything you see around here, and again, we're only playing this 2 different ways. You saw that waterfall way up there off in the distance. There's a bridge that goes in front of that. If you had a sniper rifle and enough ammunition, you could have driven your bike all the way up there. There's trails that go all the way up there, and you could have used your sniper rifle to take out this entire camp, because it would have taken them a while to figure out where the shots were coming from and to get to you. So, that's a different way to play. There's another way to play, by the way, where you could have just stealth in through the entire camp if you had the skills to do it. And you could have just taken everybody out silently, or almost everybody. And then you could have gotten up to where Manny's being held using a different route and, just stealth killed that guy. There's no reason that you have to come in and run and gun it like Deacon is doing here.
Hey, how scarce is ammunition? Because I see him switching from a bunch of weapons. And when we saw this demo, when I came in Saudi 83, one of the things that I really enjoyed was I was sitting next to you, and the driver was playing the game. And at some point, I saw you shift in your chair, and you leaned forward, and I heard you say, "Oh man, uh-oh." And I'm like, "Whoa, what's going on?" He's like, "He's gonna get killed." I'm like, "Whoa, oh!" And I leaned forward. I was like, "Oh, I guess there's some real danger." And one of the things was that he was running out of ammunition, and he was trying to go pick up ammo from the dead.
He was looking for
Marauders,
ammo,
but he was under fire.
So when we were at E3, we had a whole team with us, and everybody played it slightly differently. So it just shows you that it's not scripted at all.
Yeah. And then this Rager Bear. Oh
yeah,
boy.
the infected bear.
The infected bear. That's, that's not what you want to see.
Well, we thought that would be a good way to end the demo, is to show that it's just one, for Deacon's life. It's just one darn thing after another. Right? You're going to save your buddy. You get clotheslined. You get attacked by wolves, or you think you're finally done. You rescued you've gone through all this stuff, and then suddenly, Rager Bear.
Right. Well, as you said to me, it's not just about exploring an open world as it is the open world coming after you, the open world seeking you out, trying to...
Yeah, exactly. That's our tagline. In Days Gone, you don't have to go seeking out trouble. The world comes for you.
Trouble's looking for you.
All right, Sam, thanks a lot.
Thanks, John.
It's been fun. And I hope you guys enjoy the demo, and we'll talk more about it soon.
It showed a lot of sort of situational kind of, using the environment and the freakers that we see kind of to the advantage of the player. Yeah. So tell me what went into that.
Well, so the biggest thing that we really wanted to do this year was sort of show a more intimate part of Deacon's life. So last year it was the Horde, which is hundreds and hundreds of freakers, all sort of massed together, and you saw how Deacon had to struggle to just stay alive. And this year we wanted to show off more of the open world and this thing that we're calling our dynamic open world systems. And what that really means is you can use the freakers themselves against other enemies, like the Marauders that you see on the Media Showcase demo last night.
Right. Actually, I have a question about the freakers, because with other games, survival games, like this, for instance, The Last of Us, the clickers had this thing where they couldn't see you, but they could hear you. What is it that triggers the freakers?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's an interesting question, and for anybody who gets a chance to see our alternate demo that we're demonstrating in the theater today, or online when it gets posted, is that the time of day kind of drives the density of the freakers and the humans when they're out, but also the weather. So when it's snowing, it's going to kind of blind everybody at a distance. When it's raining, it's going to dampen the sound. So when the player learns these, he's going to be able to use that kind of context as he's going to play that as part of his strategy for how he approaches any encounter.
Gotcha.
But definitely sound, right? Because like you saw in the Media Showcase demo, Deacon, put down this bear trap and then kind of snuck off.
Right.
And in our alternate path demo, he doesn't do that. So he actually kind of goes around and watches what happens when this Marauder goes into the bear trap, and you hear this gunshot on the Media Showcase demo. If you look at our alternate path footage, you'll see that one of the Marauders actually shoots the other Marauder in the head because he's making too much noise.
Oh, wow.
Right? So yeah, so it's a pretty harsh world, but that sound traveled, and sound is something that can be really, really dangerous.
Gotcha. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah, I did notice once the bear trap was down and the guy stepped in it, you saw the freakers running.
Yeah.
It's like they heard it screaming. You heard them screaming.
This is looking good. I didn't see all of this footage. I was kind of a little distracted last night during the showcase, but one of the things I really like about this game is it's, we see a lot of open world games out there. It's certainly like a popular genre, but this one, the feel of it is different. It feels more improvisational, I think is the word I'm going for.
Absolutely. Our crafting system, I mean, it's really inspired by, you know, kind of the do-it-yourself mentality where, you know, we all feel thrilled when we make a repair to our car or our house with duct tape and a couple of loose screws, and we feel really good about it. That's Deacon. You know, he's making use of everything he can find in the environment, and they have to scavenge and search for things and employ him in really clever ways.
And he has to do it.
He has to do it to survive.
So like you see right here, this is the same clothesline that Deacon ran into, and in this demo, the runners aren't chasing him, so basically he has the opportunity to see the ambush before it happens, goes around it, comes up behind them, and takes those guys out from behind.
Right.
So, you know, that's, you know, to your point.
And then he strangles them with their own clothesline, too.
Yeah, exactly.
So he makes use of the whole buffalo in
and
this
it's a dynamic event. That can happen. You can be out in the world doing a job or a mission, and then suddenly you've got marauders that are ambushing you on the highway, and it's a dynamic event. There's no way to predict when it's going to happen. You just got to pay attention.
Wow. Is there more than just like a clothesline in the middle? Do they find more ways to ambush you?
Yeah,
it's a dangerous world, and it's something where you know the horde is dangerous, freakers are dangerous, but so too are humans because they're cunning and clever, and they too are using everything they can find to employ against their enemies. And let's just say clothesline is one of many things. We'll get into it at a later date.
Okay.
Now tell me a little bit about, maybe a little bit of the backstory about why these freakers are being hung up like this. Is that like a defense mechanism? Is it
absolutely. Yeah, so what they do is we call it the meat wall. And what they'll do is, like in this case, they have a bear trap under this dead freaker corpse. And what they'll do is they'll put a trap under it, and then as other freakers are attracted to the meat, they're all hungry all the time. That's what happens evidently if you become a freaker. But they hang up the meat walls again. It's kind of like a wall to protect the encampment. So you can always tell when you're coming close to a marauder camp because you'll run into these kinds of traps.
Yeah, they had all kinds of defenses too. I mean, the first thing Deacon did was trip over that little thing in the tin cans. And that's what drew the first guy out, which is why he'd think on his toes, scramble for a bush, and then wait, and then kill the guy when he came by.
Right.
And again, in the alternate path that we're showing, it's something where if the players are thoughtful and if they take time, they don't just rush into things, they're going to be able to employ a different analysis of the terrain. They're going to be able to look for these things and see them. And that's how he sees a clothesline. And when the players are careful and cautious and assume the world's dangerous, they can turn the tables on the bad guys using the same tools that they're using against the player against them.
Yeah, so like what you're seeing now is part of the alternate path. Changed up the time of day, changed up the weather.
Okay, I was going to say, I didn't remember this from the show.
Exactly, because it's colder now, more freakers are coming out, so freakers are stronger when it's cold out. So
interesting.
You really got to be careful when it's snowing. Also, the bike handles differently. It's like if you'd seen the earlier part when Deacon's trying to ride his bike through the snow, it's very, very different.
Oh, this is really cool. I didn't realize. Interesting. So here's your meat wall, right? The meat wall there.
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty smart move, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, look at this, a beautiful looking game too. And I know you guys are digging into the PS4 Pro as well as you make this title. This is one that's been shown off a number of times.
Right.
I know you have HDR. Tell me a little bit about like working with PS4 Pro as you develop the game.
Well, the biggest thing is just the resolution. So dynamic 4K, and if you get a chance to see this thing on a 4K monitor and HDR.
Oh yeah.
You know, and HDR is honestly to me the most impressive thing because it really sort of simulates what the human eye can see. The gamut of colors is just amazing. So watching it in 4K HDR is something you have to do.
It's beautiful enough without 4K. And then you add that to the mix and it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Right. You know, one thing that stands out to me about Days Gone, you know, amongst the other undead games out there is that you can get so many zombies on the screen in this thing, or freakers on the screen. And
come on, get them inside.
What happened?
Got hit again. Squatters off the highway. We've got to get some men together, go after them.
Don't look at me, it ain't my problem.
They've got Manny.
You sent Manny on a supply run.
I just run the camp, Deke. I don't tell folks how to live their lives.
Go to hell, Cope!
Oh! Out of the way! Oh! Hey, man!
Oh, come on. Let's do this. Yeah? You want some of this? Yeah!
That's Manny's bike. Yeah, this way. Ugh.
Cigarette. What the hell is wrong? Why do you have? You always have a bad attitude.
I have a bad attitude.
You have a bad attitude. Just don't talk.
Yes, better if we just don't.
Yo, where you at, man?
Shh.
He's not being that loud. You shut the hell up.
Thank you. You shut up.
Okay, shh. I want all of you to shut the hell up. What is your problem?
Oh, shh. There's something out there.
Just a
Stop! God! No, my leg!
Easy, fellas. There he is. Still alive. How the hell am I? Hell yeah. Come and get it. Dinner time.
Drop him now, or I'll kill him.
Do it. I'm not here for him. I'm here for you. Oh, God. Deke. Hi, Manny.
Hey,
Yeah, he threw. Oh, come on. I wasn't gonna let him kill you. Besides, who the hell else around here knows how to rebuild a carburetor?